and you may find yourself in a new loan partnership.
Yes.
Alrighty, welcome everyone. Welcome. As always, we are here today. My name is Alex Nichols. I am your host. Alongside myself, we have the rest of our team here. Tim Morellan, our Senior Director of Sales Success. We have Mike Orlando and Lando Petri, who are our sales associates, and Scott Karch, our wholesale manager as well. So with this, we have a special one for you today. We are going to be covering pretty much everything when it comes to the borrower application experience, all the way through for servicing. That's right, we are going to be showing that servicing experience, how they're going to be using that online account. I have a whole bunch to show and more. But before that, a couple housekeeping items. First and foremost, if you have any questions at all, you can post them in the Q&A box. As always, we're going to be doing Q&A later in the session. The session is being recorded, and I will put it on our YouTube channel. Along with that, I'm going to be sending an email out to everyone who registered for this webinar later on. So if you missed anything, want to recap it, or you want some information based on what we're going to be talking about, I'll be sending that out as well. So with all that said, Tim, how are we doing today? What kind of great
Yeah.
news do we have?
We have. I don't know why Kevin Aria is jumping on. What? I don't know what. He's probably thinking, oh my gosh,
Oh my gosh, Kevin just wants to join and
he,
hang out with us. That's
he
the
just
fun
wants
part.
to.
Why is this in my calendar?
I have no idea. You're like the number one originator in your company. I shouldn't expect you to navigate technology at the same time. It's like,
Am I supposed to be on this call?
no.
But you're
Bye.
See you, Kevin. That's fun. Yeah, Kevin was a guest on our last webinar, as some of you might remember. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Scott went off a camera for some reason. So, yeah, we're having tons of fun. Make sure to keep the Q&A coming in. And Alex and team, we kind of tripped over this last week a little bit because we've been getting some more questions, and not the first time at all, going, well, we don't know what the borrower's going through, and we don't know what the borrower's seeing, and we have a lot of that in resources. However, based on some of these recent questions, especially as it relates to servicing and what subsequent draws look like, and payments and that type of thing, we thought, you know what? Let's dive into the customer experience, meaning the homeowner experience. And so that's what we're going to do today. And Alex team, I just have to have some fun because it's I want to point out that we have Mike and Lando on the call. But check this out. Because of Mike's last name and Lando's first name, depending on how you say it, you might reach out to the sales success team and go, man, I'm not sure if I need to speak to Mike or Lando. No, it's Mike and Lando. So I just love that. It's a play on words. So anyway, it's always great having them on the call. I like that. Mike or Lando. Well, I don't know. Which one do you want to talk to, Mike or Lando?
Lando's name just has to go first from now on.
Yeah, right. We'll just go Lando.
Swallow my pride, would be fine.
I'll just change it to Bill. It'll be easy.
Anyway, how we doing, team? It's Wednesday, I think. Anyway, I know we've all been really busy, but give us a scope from before we dive in here too much. How we doing?
Good. Good. I mean, hey, Tim, one thing I'd say real quick is I'd encourage everyone on the call, if you have great ideas for these calls, let us know in the sales success inbox, because I think that's how we got the idea for this call. Came from one of our partners, and it was an outstanding idea. So just encourage you guys, email us the great ideas you have.
Great point. And also, just remind everybody, also guests on the webinar. We love highlighting and showcasing loan originators. In the last couple of months of webinars, we've had a couple of different loan originators on as guests on this call, and it's been very well received. So we're anxious to help that and promote you and promote what it is we all do. And so, yeah, let us know. Good point, Lando. Mike, how about you? Are you keeping your head above water, trying to keep up?
Yeah, doing okay. Doing all right.
And Scott, well, he's rocking and rolling. So yeah, busy. It's been extremely busy. A lot of you, maybe even on this call, were in New York last week, like myself and Scott were actually, for MBA secondary conference. Had a lot of great meetings there. And then things went awry when I tried to leave and fly home. Right, Scott? The flights got canceled.
Poor Tim.
And I was stuck in New Jersey, so I feel like I'm recovering, but I am finally back. So anyway, let's dive into it, Alex. Let's take a look at the homeowner experience from from a point of application. What is it going to look and feel like for our borrowers?
All right, so we're going to begin at the very beginning. So the big thing here, right, is we are going to begin as if you have completed your inquiry, you have hit that submit button, and it is complete. And it will say borrower notified in your pipeline, and the borrower is going to receive that email. Couple notes, first and foremost, for our white label partners, of course, it's going to be branded for you. So we're going to go through that Figure experience, but keep in mind, maybe the branding is going to be a little bit different. But with this, right, the borrower is going to receive an email letting them know their loan officer has started a HELOC application, and they simply need to click a link to begin. So as we can see here, if I went ahead and clicked on that link, well, the borrower is going to go in, and what they're going to need to do is they're going to need to verify their email with a one-time passcode. This one-time passcode is going to be sent over to their email, and they simply need to enter it in. Now, here's some advice from Alex, first and foremost, right? Most borrowers, about 60% of our borrowers, go through on a mobile device. For some borrowers, they can have some difficulties because they're going to have to swap back and forth from both their browser app, right, as well as their actual email app to get that passcode. So what I usually suggest for borrowers is if they're starting the application to do it on a laptop, desktop, right? If they're having difficulties with this. Some borrowers, I would venture a guess, a majority of them, maybe not, have difficulty swapping back and forth between those two apps on their phone. But if you have a borrower who's having a hard time creating that initial password, and this is something that we as a team have helped a lot of loan officers with recently, just know it's that one-time passcode that's sent over. This is good, as we can see, for only 10 minutes. So it's something they're going to need to grab pretty quickly, I would say.
By the
So
way,
this is where I
Alex,
have the two tabs.
yeah, so listen, team, I really want to drive this point home. You've all heard me say it before, the power of questions and setting expectation is key in all of this. And so I would encourage you as originators, have this conversation with the borrower. So how are they at navigating their cell phone? If are they going to do it on their cell phone? And if so, then ask the question, are you good navigating going from one screen to the next to copy a code and paste it? And if there any hesitancy at all, then Alex, you're spot on. Encourage them to start the process anyway from a desktop, laptop, something of that nature. So that's a great point, Alex.
Because it will save their progress. So this is something where they can log in later on a cell phone with their email and password they create and continue on, right? And I have a lot of borrowers who will do that. All right, so we'll put in that passcode. I just saved us some time. I copied that over from the email. Basically, I just don't want to show you all my email. And then we're going to make a password. Now, with the password, I can't type and talk. I found this in my life. Keep in mind, this has to be 12 characters long, including uppercase, lowercase, number, and symbol. So that's another thing as well. I've had my own borrowers that have difficulties with this. I've had LOs ask me questions on this, right? Just let them know if they're having difficulties, write a symbol. And so, an exclamation mark, question mark, whatever it is, upper, lowercase number, it'll let them know if it doesn't match. Now, once we have made that password with an online account, awesome. They can always log in from any device. They can always check their progress and go from here. But the very step, they're going to have a dashboard. And on that dashboard, all they have to do is hit continue to then proceed in that application flow. Now, the very first thing they're going to have to do is agree to the terms and service and privacy policy and electronic communication policy, either from Figure or from one of our white label partners. Now, because this is through Figure Wholesale, they're going to have to agree to the initial disclosures. If you're a retail partner, they are not going to do this. This is something that is through a broker channel. So if you're through a wholesale partner, the borrower is going to go all this. This is just an additional step. I want to make that call out because we're going to have a bunch of different loan officers on here from different setups. Something pretty simple. So there will be a broker borrower agreement if it's in that wholesale space. What I want you to notice, though, is my contact card. At the top right, it's going to have my information here. So that is where it's going to be information pulled from my profile on Lead Portal. So if you want to, you can always customize that. Put in a headshot, logo, phone number. That's what I say in all my trainings. So then the borrower always sees you front and center. Great, awesome. We filled in those initial disclosures. Now we're ready and prepared. And if we ever need to reference back to those as the borrower, we do have a document section here on the dashboard. Now, if the borrower does ever have questions on their application, there is going to be a phone number listed at the top and a chat button. please, quick note, I really want to stress this. We are going through a test environment. Don't look at the names or the numbers too closely. Same with the support phone number, right? You're going to have your own dedicated phone number depending on your partnership level. So I'll send out an email later. If you ever have questions, I put our email in the chat. We can let you know. But this is all test information. I want to make that clear. But as we can see, there's a little chat bubble here. So if I had any questions down here, I can go ahead and start a chat. Chat is with AI at first to answer their basic questions. But if they want to talk to a real agent, should take them a minute or two to talk to a real person if they want that kind of assistance. All right, that's all the preliminary stuff. Let's go through the application together. Now, the borrower is going to start by looking over their pre-qualified offer. If you've done that inquiry, it's going to mirror your choices. So here I've done the inquiry as a loan officer in Lead Portal. I've selected $100,000 for my borrower, typically after having a conversation with them, seeing their use case, talking to them about their offers. So we've selected $100,000. We've selected the higher origination fee to get the lower rates, and we've selected a fixed rate. Now, with this as a loan officer during the inquiry, I did not select any direct debt payoff. But if the borrower wants to, they do have that option. So this is something where they can select it, they can change it. It is a way for them to look this over. And soft credit's good for 14 days, so they can always think this over and maybe have a discussion with, say, a spouse. Anything, gentlemen, you want to add on before I continue?
Yeah, I do, Alex. If you scroll back up to the top, because I think it's a good note here that this screen very much mirrors the inquiry screen, like you mentioned, that the LO does. It's also important to note that the borrower can modify right here as well. Not just selecting debts to pay off, but they could actually modify their loan amount as well during this time. So why is that important? We commonly get the question, and team, you can chime in here as well, but we commonly get the question, hey, my borrower is at such and such a stage and they think they want to switch it from fixed to a variable or variable to fixed, or they want to pay off debts. And there's two places which you're going to see. And this is the first one. This is the first one where a borrower, right as they get started in accepting the offer, they can make the modification. But the great news is it's not the last opportunity they'll have. So I just want to point that out. This is, they can make a change initially, and then they'll again be given another opportunity to confirm and or modify right towards the end.
Yeah, I think it's important to note as a loan officer when you're doing the inquiry. I know some of us have the borrower on the phone with us when we do this, but if not, don't feel like you have to be perfect when filling out the offer screen, because they are going to get a couple of chances to make any changes.
And we're going to see that too during this. This is just one chance. We'll see later where they'll select their final offers after we've gone through and run the underwriting based on a few things. So let's hit save and continue. We've selected our pre-qualified offer. Again, we'll have chances to change this later if we want to. That's just saying, all right, this is the offer I would like here at this stage. Now we are on provide more information. And what that means is we are going to need their social at this stage. Again, that's a big selling point to me, is for you to put in that inquiry. You're not going to put in that social for soft credit. So this is something that I think is really impactful. And the borrower is going to put in their social. What they're doing here is they're giving us authorization for a hard credit pull. Keep in mind, however, we are not pulling hard credit until verify identity. So this is really just getting some basic information, marital status, financial purpose. And once they agree to a hard credit pull later on in the application, we are then going to go through the HMDA questions, ethnicity, race, and sex. So this is going to load through if it'll let me. And one of the main reasons as well, I want to show you here as they're making these selections, it should take them a minute or two to get over to income verification. So in this case for HMDA, they can say, I do not wish to provide this information, right? Or they can put in what's applicable. But these are fairly quick. They usually take about a minute or two for the borrower to fill in. As long as they're going through, they're engaged, right? And again, they can do this on pretty much any device. Now, before we get to income verification, they're going to have an application summary. It's going to let them know their offer, their information, everything that's been entered so far. If they're paying attention, this is just a quick summary of everything, so they can go ahead and just hit that submit button. But it's making sure that all the information there is correct, including things like the address for financing. All right, folks, this is the big one we want to talk about today. Well, maybe one of the big ones. This is income verification. Now, before our team jumps in really here with a whole bunch of information, I want to cover it just very on a high level, right? The borrower is going to need to verify income in order to proceed based on the offer they selected. And what I mean by that is our DTI threshold is 50%. The system's going to check on the back end, and as soon as they verify enough for the offer they selected, they'll move on, right? So in this case, I selected 200,000, but remember, I selected, I got higher offers, so maybe I don't need to verify 220,000. Maybe I do, but this is where the borrower can connect multiple sources depending on how they get their income. The most common and quickest way to verify is bank accounts. This is the way we tell everyone to link first. So that's either personal or business bank accounts. This goes through Plaid, and all they need is their username and password. Should take them a minute or two. And because this is all one method, they can have as many of those types of accounts as they want, and it all adds up together. So I usually tell borrowers first thing they should do is try their bank accounts. And don't worry, it's going to look at regular deposits, calculated up for gross income on those personal accounts. And for business bank accounts, it gets even better because we don't need documents. It just has them simply say how they filed their taxes, either putting in the industry code or just manually putting in what kind of business it is. Should take them a minute or two. Now, with this, I want you to look at this, right? Let's take an even step back, right? I'm a borrower. I need to verify my income. We have these little rectangles here, right? These are our methods, and we take the highest method, not the lowest. So if the borrower links their bank accounts and it doesn't verify enough, we have other methods here. So if we hit show more, it's going to give us different options, such as linking a tax preparer service like an IRS.gov account for taxes, payroll account like ADP and the like, investment retirement accounts, right? And again, we're going to take the highest. So they can try all of these. Whatever's the highest, we're going to go with. And if we notice here at the very bottom left, a little show more option, if we click on that, it's a little bit hidden, but they can manually upload their pay stubs. Please note this does take at least 48 hours, 1 to 2 days, I should say, to process. So this is something that can take forever in my world. But really what it is it goes through an operations team of real humans. They do a very good job. They process through these. A lot of times it can just take 24 hours, but just know it can take up to 48. So the idea here is because we take the highest method, I recommend bank accounts, taxes, things like that first because it take minutes. And then if they need to, they can upload their pay stubs manually or say their spouses. But realistically here, if we're going to connect a bank account, we just click connect. It'll open Plaid and they put in their username and password. So before we connect things, before we move on, team, what advice do you have for the audience? What things do you see come up?
Well, right out of the gate, what comes to mind is one, we all know that connecting to the bank accounts is our number one, and it says it right there, right? It's the quickest path. However, going back to the power of questions and expectations for the borrower, if when you're speaking to the borrower, you're letting them know this, and if they give any indication of pushback or they're hesitant to do so, then have a conversation with the borrower and give them the instruction as to where you think they're going to want to use or take advantage of to verify income. If one of your borrowers gets to this screen and you've already discussed with them that they don't want to connect their bank accounts, you'll want to advise them to choose verify income with another method. If they're wanting to do pay stubs, you're going to want to advise them to look for the show more options button here. It's really important to understand that borrower experience so that, again, you can set that expectation. And team, if you have anything to add on beyond that.
Yeah, I often get, hey, Plaid's not connecting. What do I do? I got $12, which is another signal. Plaid's not connecting, right? It's Plaid is one method and may not connect to every resource, every institution. It is a full doc loan. If method A doesn't work with Plaid, you probably should try method B with tax returns, et cetera, for the self-employed. So I hear that pretty often. A lot of times I hear, I don't know why Plaid is not figuring out what I came up with. Well, we have an algorithm that's built in with Plaid. We're not advised of this algorithm, so we can't share it with you. But, Plaid is it. We do not have underwriters. Whatever Plaid comes back with, that's what we're going to utilize. No exceptions to the rule. Again, feel free to try another method, tax returns, pay stubs, etc. We will take the higher amount of any method.
Hey, how would you coach a loan officer to talk to their borrowers, um, if the borrower is a little uneasy putting their username and password in the Plaid?
Oh, that is such a great question, Mike. I get that a lot, and I've had my own borrowers with that. We have our own type of wording where it's like, hey, this is 256-bit encryption. We've never had an issue, and all the whole time, Figure's been a company. Here's my biggest thing with this. Me personally, Alex, right? I've had my own issues with the accounts being hacked. I had a Best Buy credit card where someone took a laptop out, a couple grand on that, things of that nature, right? So I get the idea of being, safe and secure. Plaid, honestly, is very secure, number one, but it's coaching the borrower how it works. To me, is that the important thing? And let me explain how it works. So I click connect here, right? It's going to open up Plaid to say, okay, let's connect your institution. So let's say, for example, here, I want to connect Wells Fargo, right? Well, what's going to happen to connect Wells Fargo, to click connect to login, it's pulling up an API that's literally going to pull up Wells Fargo's website to log in. So in this case, because we're in a test demo environment, it says First Platypus Bank, which I love very, very much, but they are putting in their username and password. In this case, let's say, for example, Wells Fargo, right, into Wells Fargo's site. So they're going to log into Wells Fargo. And then in that Wells Fargo site, it is then going to ask for permission to connect, right, to Plaid to give authorization to verify. So sometimes banks do have that security setting where it'll say allow third-party access. So they need to make sure. But think about this, right? We do not see or save the username and password. Plaid doesn't see or save it. It's going through their bank account directly to give Plaid permission to simply look at their names, simply look at, let's say, their checking account, and it's only so much information. It's only an annualized, 12 month, only looking at those deposits. So it's very secure. Never really had an issue here, with this in particular. And let the borrower know, right? It is secure. So in this case, it's going to say, okay, in this case for Wells Fargo, we're going to look at the account and balance info, account routing numbers, right? Contact information, transactions. And those transactions, really are only going back, like I said, 12 months. Now, I want to add on my own little twist to this, right? Let's try to get this verified through Wells Fargo. Something that's come up recently, and I want to make this clear, right? It's going to run the underwriting in the background. If it does not verify enough income, they can connect via other ways. So if someone has multiple bank accounts, they can link them all up together again. Like in this case, look at this. We've connected the Wells Fargo account, but it looks like it only verified 7,000. So I don't have a lot of money in there, let's say, right? Well, in this case, it says I need to verify additional income. However, if there was an alternative offer, a counter offer, it would let me know as the borrower. The borrower could select that counter offer, and then it would have a move on past income verification because they always verified enough. Or we can try other things. So if they connect Wells Fargo and go, shoot, that didn't verify enough, that's my only account. Well, let's try taxes. Let's try another method, right? However, if I have other accounts, that's where I can go and connect it. So to be clear, the system's always going to check. It's going to check for things like counter offers. It's going to be checking to see if we can verify. Now, with this, we're going to go through and we're going to verify our income. Before we verify our income, any last things you guys want to add on before we go ahead and proceed? Fair enough, gentlemen. Fair enough. Now, folks, I'm going to be sending out a bunch of information via an email. Check the Resource Center and Lead Portal. I have my full demo videos on this. So if you want to learn more information on income verification, I have demo videos about every type of verification method. I have documents fully about income verification, including spousal income states, as well as you can always reach out to our team if you'd like to learn more, tips, tricks around this, and ways to talk to the borrower. Let's move on. Now, the next step is going to be selecting a disbursement account. So to select a disbursement account, it's going to look to see what accounts are already been connected via Plaid. So we selected a Chase and Wells Fargo account, right? Or we've already pre-connected them. So it's going to give us that option. Now, couple notes on this. Number one, here's a big thing, right? Talk to your borrowers. They should connect a personal account for disbursement. We see this happen a lot where borrowers link a business bank account to verify their income. Great, awesome. It verifies their income. But then what happens when they select the business bank account for disbursement? It's going to flag a whole bunch of things in our system. It may see, on there, when it comes to account ownership, maybe their name's not fully on there or the LLC, or we're going to need to get some docs just to verify. It slows down the process. So while it is doable, right? Business bank accounts, it'll verify in a minute or two, where with business accounts, that can add on additional days because we may need a doc to get verified. Now, another note to this. Let's say your borrower, their account isn't on Plaid. Let's say it's a small credit union or something like that, right? Well, with this, if they connect a new account, it's going to first open up Plaid, but they can exit out of that and they can put in an account and routing number directly. However, since it's not going through Plaid, we are then going to request a voided check. So again, may take 48 hours to process, 1 to 2 days. But that is something where if you know the borrower, they're saying, hey, my bank account doesn't link on Plaid, that's fine. Let them know. Hey, great. We can still use that for disbursement. Just make sure to have a voided check ready. They're going to want that to make sure for verification purposes. All right, moving on. We're going to skip a couple steps fairly quickly here. So we're going to go ahead and select this Chase account. Then we're going to authorize auto pay because we selected that for the discount. And then we're going to move on to identity verification. Identity verification, this is where a lot of things get stuck up. So I'm sure you guys probably have a lot to say on this. But quite simply here, if they're on a, let's say a desktop, laptop, they can upload a photo. Or if they're on a mobile device, they can simply snap a photo of their ID. As we can see, I'm on a MacBook right now, a laptop, so it's going to show me a QR code I can scan on my phone because we prefer when people take a photo. It's going to be the easiest way, right? If you're on a mobile device, you take a quick photo of your driver's license, passport, whatever it is, you're good to go. Keep in mind, however, we want to make sure all four corners are showing. That's the biggest thing. It's on a dark surface. There's no glare. This is going through an automated verification, process. So we need to make sure the ID is as perfect as possible. And the biggest thing to me is all four corners are visible. And it has to be one of these, a US driver's license, passport, ID, or residency card. Anything you guys have seen recently? Any tips or tricks you'd give around this?
No, I think you covered. I mean, I think it's important to remember what you mentioned, right? It's not a person looking at these IDs. Where, if part of the corner is missing, right, like we could all look at it and deduct that there's no information that's missing off of it, right? But a computer system that's looking at it sees a corner missing or sees a person holding it, with the corner, with their thumb and forefinger, that there's information missing technically, right? So it's important, like Alex said, put it on a dark surface, take a good picture with your phone, don't scan it, don't put it in a PDF or anything like that. Lower that overhead light to cut off the glare. Should be good to go.
Yeah, I also want to add that, initially when you're taking the inquiry through the portal and you have the borrower on the phone, let them know you're going to have to provide us with an ID later on in the process. What ID are you going to provide and what is the name on that ID exactly? Because that's going to go back to your initial inquiry because this name on the ID that they provide is going to have to match your application exactly. Junior, senior, the third, Joe instead of Joseph, vice versa. Have them tell you what ID they're going to provide. Let them know they got to provide it and what is the name on the ID. They'll save you a lot of headaches in the end.
Tried not to dox my files. I guess you guys are going to see that I have a webinar intro. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to upload this. There we go. Got a nice little driver's license in there. Now, I want to go back to Mike's point, right? This is final offers. So we pulled hard credit. You didn't see it. It was during identity verification. We pulled on the back end, right? So we verified income. We verified their hard credit. We're all good for the final offer. If their loan amount is over $400,000, then we're going to require a full appraisal. So we would have been stopped at this point to where they would have gone through Clear Capital. Clear Capital would have sent them an email to schedule. So we would have stopped them to say, hey, at this point, you need to order an appraisal for us to continue. However, since our loan amount is under $400,000, total loan amount specifically, quite simple, we just go by that AVM. So here we are, final offers. This is their final chance to modify their offer. And as we can see, there's a modify button, so they can go back to an offer page. It's going to let them know about IntelliDebt, since we skipped that over, our direct debt payoff feature. But realistically, the borrower needs to make sure they're confident this is the offer they want. And the reason is, if they hit save and continue, well then, it's locked in stone. We're going to generate a HELOC agreement. They can no longer change their offer in the future. So let the borrower know they'll have 2 opportunities to change their offer, but on the second time, that is going to be the final chance they'll have. Now, here's the fun bit. I wanted to show this. And you may be all wondering through this whole time, Alex, why are you going through a test environment? Why are you going through something that's being so glitchy today? Tim may be asking himself. Well, I want to show you something. I want to talk about something that keeps coming up all the time, and I want to provide some clarity on our process. What is happening right now is our system is going to go through to generate these signing docs. And to do so, it needs to verify to see, hey, is there anything that may hold up this application when it comes to discrepancies, when it comes to fraud, when it comes to things that may be incorrect, when it comes to data, right? Well, what happens a lot of the times is the first or third, right? Discrepancies or maybe some data. In this instance, multiple things have happened and you're not seeing it. On the back end, number one, I use the same social every time. So it's alerting our teams the same social is being used. It's also letting me know that, hey, the name on the property doesn't match the name on the ID, things of that nature. So it's going to automatically fire off some conditions. Here it's going to show a condition for the borrower, but more importantly, what you didn't see, we can't continue with this HELOC at this time as the borrower. We cannot proceed to that actual document signing. So the borrower is then stopped, and our team needs to verify things before the system generates those actual documentation. So let's say the borrower gets stopped here, right? They're confused. They don't know what's going on. There's a contact card for their LO. LO maybe reach out to our team or customer ops, right? Team, what's the appropriate response here? How should the LO be coaching the borrower? How should they be reaching out to our teams? What's the situation here really to get the application expedited and looked at?
Mike, Lando, you want to take it? Or you want me to say?
I'm going to need Alex to repeat it again. I apologize. My sound's having a little hard time hearing.
The question is when a borrower gets stuck on an application like this, we're not really sure
Oh,
what's
I mean,
going on.
the
What's
first-
the first path?
Yeah, first thing I would do is have them use the chat feature. Reach out to the chat. Ask. First thing I would say is I'd like to speak with an agent. They'll be connected to an agent in 1 to 2 minutes. That agent's going to be able to address their questions, answer any questions that they may have, help them through that. There is a 1-800 number. Hold times can be a little longer than the chat is, but those are available for them to have that. That's the first step. Drive them right there because they're going to be the subject matter expert to help them solve that problem.
I like that a lot. I want to show you all as well. This is what it looks like in Lead Portal, right? You are going to see, and I get this question a lot, it's a note signing. Note signing takes up multiple, I will say, sub-steps. Let's put it that way, right? It's just a high-level look. So they've gone through final offers, but we're looking for things on our end. There's situations where they may be stopped. They haven't actually got to note signing yet. They haven't actually signed those docs, right? We haven't even generated those. So to Lando's point, right? The borrower, if they get stopped like that, let them know. Chat in right away. Talk to an agent. Call in. Talk to an agent, right? For you as a loan officer, you can talk to our ops team too. You can always give a call in. You can talk. But in this case, you can also check the notes in Lead Portal. It's going to let you know automated notes first for what our system detected, maybe why it stopped it. So you can kind of read through, as well as if there's any notes manually from our operations team, right? But in this case, we can take a look to see if there's conditions, things maybe that are needed from our team for the borrower. And then we can always check the application status. We'll go, okay, it's generating closing docs, but as we can see, it can't actually do that yet. So my point is, and the reason I wanted to show this today on the webinar, if you see note signing, right? If something's happening, borrower really, if they're ever stopped, if there's anything going on, they should call or chat in, to Lando's point. You can call in. You can check what's going on. And that same thing is going to happen during notary preparation because we stop every single application at notary preparation. We're going to review it manually. The borrower can call or chat in. They can expedite that. You can call in with any questions, right? Our ops team is fantastic. It is something where, though, either it's going to take 1 to 2 days for that to be processed, or the borrower can just, get that expedited by chatting in really quickly. Anything else you guys want to add on?
No, like Lando said, I would always steer them right to the chat. And from the loan officer, like you said, go check out the file. Sometimes the answers are right in there and you can kind of coach the borrower on what needs to be done. But the number one answer I would say is tell them to use the chat.
All right, folks, let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this application. So here, once they go ahead, they're able to proceed, right? Maybe something doesn't stop them. So they hit their final offer, they click continue, we generate those docs. That's what's going to happen most of the time, right? They're going to go through the document signing. I'm not going to bore you with all this information if I can talk, but basically they'll go through the document signing. It can be different, but they'll get a HELOC agreement. You can see this in the documentation on Lead Portal as well if you want to review it. But basically, it's going to cover all the documentation required during note signing. And then when they accept all these, they will add on any additional signers if there are any. I don't have any for this application, but if they have like spouses in community property states, or if, for example, other title owners, they'll put on additional signers. And then with that, again, we'll stop them at notary preparation. I'm going to save you all the trouble of having to wait for me to finish all of everything. Now, once notary preparation is complete from our operations team, we will send an email out, basically letting the borrower know they can log in and continue. And either two things are going to happen. Either they'll talk to an e-notary, which I'll talk about in a second, or the other route, if e-notary is not available in their county, they go through and schedule a manual notary. If they schedule a manual notary, they're going to pick a date, time, and location in the application 24 hours in advance. That'll go to our third party, get that scheduled with a notary. So keep in mind, if you see a manual notary fee, it's a manual notary and they need to schedule it. However, if there's no notary fee, it's e-notary, they can talk to a notary anytime that we're available, Monday to Sunday, which makes it kind of nice. And this is where they need a camera and microphone. So most people, I just say do it on mobile device or say a laptop with a webcam. But here's an important bit. The primary borrower, the person doing the application, they will connect to their e-notary here on the application by, selecting talk to a notary. For any additional signers, they have to do a completely separate session, one person individually doing each session, right? So the additional signer will receive an email with a link to log in to connect to their e-notary session, and each person will have to do that. And most of the time, it's a borrower doing it, then their spouse has to connect and do a separate session, then they're done, nice and easy. But keep in mind, they can't do a combined session, and I see a lot of times an app is held up because the additional signer does not do their e-notary session. But it's pretty simple. It's just a little video call. I used to do them all the time as a notary with the state of Nevada. It takes about 5 minutes. It's very quick. But quite simply, they just review their documents, they e-sign, everything's all nice and easy, right? And then once they're done with all of this, put in their name, they're done. That's all there is to it. And that's the entire application, start to finish. Haven't talked about servicing yet, but that is all. Anything else you guys want to add on before I jump over to servicing?
The only thing I want to drive the point home there is the additional signer notary. We do commonly see that where a borrower sometimes gets confused. When they're taken to the screen to add the additional signer, please set the expectation with the borrower that it's the additional signer's information that they're entering. A different name, of course, a different email. This is key. They can't use their same email. The additional signer's last four of social and the additional signer's phone number. Sometimes we'll see where the borrower will enter in their own information as the additional signer, and that, of course, won't work. So just, again, set that expectation, and then that the additional signer will receive their own email to complete e-notary and set up their own portal, if you will.
All right, let's do a quick transition, and this will take a couple minutes. We have plenty of questions in the chat, and I want to get over to those folks. So let's think about this, right? Borrower does notary. They're going to go through rescission if it's a primary property. If not, no rescission, obviously, and then we fund after that. We fund via ACH. We get a lot of questions on funding. Keep in mind, it's an automated process. So as soon as rescission's over, if it's applicable, we fund automatically. We don't fund on the weekends, but it is something to keep in mind since it's ACH, it takes 1 to 3 business days. So I've been seeing a lot of emails come in our email box saying, hey, when are you guys going to fund this? We've usually always funded it, after or before the question's been asked. But keep in mind, usually it takes 1 to 3 business days. And then after that can take a couple days. And then that online account updates to an InRepay servicing account. And it depends on the partner, what your servicer is, but it's all going to function the same. The borrower is going to have an online account where they're going to be able to do everything, right? No physical docs, nothing like that, no paper statements. But what the borrower is going to have is they're going to have an online account that's going to be through their dashboard where they're going to see that home equity line in repay. So with this, they're going to be able to see multiple things. Number one, they're going to see their available credit. I just went ahead and funded this today, so I don't have any available credit. But what's fun about this here, right, is they're going to be able to see things like, hey, what's the draw going to be if I did a redraw today? And that's really important for, say, fixed rate HELOCs to where they can log in and always check when the best time is for them to go ahead and do that redraw. They can make a payments if they want to, right? They can always set up auto pay if they would like to, right? Most people set up auto pay initially, as we saw for that discount. But more importantly, they can do additional payments. I get this question all this time, right? No prepayment penalties. So if they wanted to, they can go in and make an additional payment if they want to. Apparently, it won't let me because it's not a real file. Sorry, I can't make that payment. And then under more options here, that's where they're going to get their statements, where it's going to break down everything when it comes to how those payments are broken up, their full documents, any notices. They can get a payoff quote if they want to. But here's another question I get asked a lot. Here's a due date change. That's pretty fun, right? So what's going to happen is their first payment's always going to be 30 days after funding. That is set in stone. But this is where they can change it. So maybe they're like, hey, I get my paycheck on the 15th. Let's change it over to that. So there's a lot that can be done in here. And then once they have the option of available credit, that's where they can go ahead and redraw. And redraws are at a minimum of $500. So as soon as they hit that $500 limit, they'll have that option here in that account. And they can do redraws every 7 days as long as they have the available credit and they're within their draw period. And with that, keep in mind these are amortized loans, principal plus interest payments. So every time they're making monthly payments, they're paying down, to get that available credit. But other than that, we can see everything here, notices, documents, all that fun stuff. All right, gentlemen, that's what I wanted to show. I think I talked enough today when it comes down to, I know I have plenty of
You
questions
got to
here.
take a deep breath, Alex. Just a
Yeah.
second.
Ooh.
We have a ton of Q&A. You want to take it away for us, Michael?
We do. So first up, why is there no option to add a co-borrower prior to receiving an initial offer? How do we add a co-borrower? Or more importantly, how do we add the co-borrower's income? Maybe not more importantly, but separately.
Well, here again, we only ever have, just to be clear, we only ever have one borrower. However, if the borrower is married and if it's a community property or homestead state, and the list of these states will be found in the Resource Center, then you can include spousal income. I'm driving the point home of spousal because this is not household income. This is married spousal income. One borrower, however, both incomes. So you would actually state, when you enter in annual income, you would state one lump sum, which is a combination of both spouses' income as one number.
I'm starting a Figure campaign through a Facebook ad where they click on my ad and it takes them directly to the Figure site. Have people had success with this?
I will share that people have had success with this, and I'll just share with you some of the things that I have personally seen, and then Lando or Scott, if you have any comments on this, or Mike. I have seen some success with this, and I will tell you that what you're likely to get is maybe some folks that maybe don't fit in the FICO score, credit criteria, that type of thing. The quality may be a little bit of a difference there. However, I want to encourage you to realize that any client that comes into your database, whether it works with Figure or not, is always going to be a win for you. So yes, it's a great idea. We do see lots of partners with success there. Lando?
Yeah, one thing, Tim, just to specify, if you are a broker partner and it is taking them to Figure's website, that is coming to our direct-to-consumer channel. That is not entering your pipeline where you will get compensated. So if you are a wholesale partner, remember, think about making that advertisement maybe a QR code where you capture the information you need. That way you can enter it in and start the application so you get credit and compensated for that. For our white label partners that have a direct link, perfectly fine. Just want to make sure that anyone else that may be in a different channel doesn't have that idea and loses out on a lot of data they can capture.
That's a great point.
All right, how do you
Sending a
cancel
link,
it?
sending a link. I'm sorry, Mike. Sending
no.
a link is. I'm old school. Walking my borrower through the whole inquiry process is always best. Just my opinion.
How do you cancel a file that's in progress?
Well, it's a really open-ended question, so it depends on what part of the progress it's in. Let me keep it as easy as possible. If it's in borrower notified status, you've just run the inquiry, it's borrower notified, you, the originator, can cancel said inquiry. If the borrower is engaged, if they've begun that application, the only way to cancel a file in progress is for the borrower to drive it on their end, and the fastest path there is using, of course, the chat function.
All right, I'm going to jump around a little bit to try to keep these together. So, why do we need to restart the file completely when the name is off by just a few letters, or a full restart if ownership type is incorrect? Can we not change that after underwriting review without restarting it completely?
I'm going to take this one. I love this question. So here's the why. I love that's how the question started off, is why. So in the traditional loan world, all of us as loan originators, we go in, we complete a 1003, we run our AUS findings, and then at some point during the process, we realize the name was spelled wrong, we forgot a suffix, their social is wrong, whatever the case is. What do? We go in and we make that change and we rerun the AUS findings. In our system, there is no modifying something and then the system rerunning the underwrite. There is no going backwards in time. So that's the why behind it, okay? So it is very important that the data is as accurate as possible as you're completing the inquiry. The second half of that, though, is there are two different paths depending on what is happening. This is also driven by the borrower, again, using the chat function or calling in. Usually, if it's a spelling error or something of that nature, what the team on our end would say is we can do a modify and restart, meaning, yes, it's a new file, but we modify it and we restart it for the borrower, sending them a new link. Everything stays the same, and the borrower is able to click through pretty quickly, actually, to get back to where they were at the level of the other file. That's a modify restart. By the way, you'll know this because if you look at the notes in the lead portal on the details page, you'll see M/R, and it might say borrower needs to authorize M/R, which means modify restart. Or for whatever reason, and Alex, you may have off the top of your mind some reasons that would be a complete cancel and reapply, but they are similar but different. Does that make sense? So that's the why as to why we don't go backwards in time. There's nothing in the system that re-underwrites the file. And I know we don't think it's a big deal, but it is a big deal if someone forgot the suffix and they're a junior or a third. It is a big deal if their birth date is wrong, because it does need to be rerun. And so the only way to do that is to modify and restart, or in some cases, cancel and restart.
All right. Let's see. I had a borrower who was asked to cancel his offer because he filled it as a sole owner and his wife passed away, but it was showing that she was on title. After he canceled, the new offer came back at half the amount and killed the deal. How do I explain this to the client?
I'd want to look at that actual file. That actually would have been a modify restart in my mind. It would have gone from sole, it would have gone from joint to sole, and then he would have been asked to provide a death certificate. Alex, keep me honest there, but
I would like to look at that as well because we don't need to do a modify restart, to my understanding, to change ownership type. We should be able to change it from joint to sole. We would just need the death certificate.
correct.
Sales success at figure.com, put it in the chat, and we can go ahead and take a look at that file.
Why do trust reviews take up to 3 to 5 business days to review? We usually advertise speed, but it seems to slow down for a trust cert review.
For that particular, it really comes down to the fact that for trust reviews, we're going to match the actual certificate of trust up with the probate code of the state. I used to do it myself back in the day when I basically ran ops. But the big thing here is the fact that it goes to a full specialist team, right? We have partners across the board. There was a lot of business. We did our best quarter last quarter. So really, it comes down to it just needs a higher level agent to do it, and it takes time. They need to go line by line. It is not an easy thing to review. Like I said, when I used to do it, you have to look at everything. You have to match it up. You have to make sure the probate code's matched. There's a lot of legal stuff that goes into it. So with say like a pay stub, when we say 1 to 2 days, it really just comes down to that processing time of, how quickly our team gets that in the queue. They look at it, they put in the information, boom, it's done. With certificate of trust, there's a lot more time that goes into it. But again, I will say when it comes down to it, once that's approved and gone through, we can get everything all straight downhill from there. As well as for your borrowers, they can always call or chat in if they want to expedite that right after it's been submitted. Let our team know, and we can always, put that in a queue for the team to look at.
Bryant, Mutual of Omaha, works with a group that I do some work with, and they're doing an awesome job. But it says, I had a question about your AVM model. Several denials I've had in the past have to do with no AVM for a specific property. Does Figure only use one appraisal management company?
We actually have multiple
Mhm.
appraisal management companies, I believe upwards of 4. And the interesting part about that, Bryant, is that if there's no AVM, you should be getting triggered to estimate a value and then a drive-by getting ordered. It's when there is an AVM, however, no value is established, that would be an issue. But if there's no AVM, like the property can't be found, you should be automatically being triggered to estimate the value, which would trigger a BPO order.
All right, so we've had many issues when a borrower adds a password. Oftentimes the password expires right away within about 5 seconds. They get stuck and can't log in. I found that if they click on the top left company logo, it'll take them back to the home screen. And then when they click log in, it lets them log in without creating a new password. It seems like a bug.
I'd want to dive into that a little bit. That seems a little odd and more concerning. I'm wondering if they click on the logo, where's it actually taking them?
Mhm. Could a borrower start an inquiry with you first and then go on their own and apply directly with Figure?
Ooh, depends. That's a great question, by the way, anonymous attendee. Yes, and it depends on the business model. If you are a wholesale partner and you have an inquiry in progress, there's a file in there, and the borrower goes to figure.com directly, the borrower will receive a warning saying, please contact your loan broker. We see a file in progress. If you are white labeled, however, the rules change, and the borrower could, in fact, go to figure.com, and at some point they would be asked to make a decision as to which file they want to cancel, and is driven solely by the borrower there. That's why we'd lean on the white label portion so heavy that you should be saying, hey, it's so and so's HELOC, not Figure HELOC, in that white label space.
I've had 3 files in a row that I had to hunt down a deed. Isn't this something that title can do for us? Do you use several methods to find a deed? Seems like it's been happening more and more and slows down the loan.
Yes, this is something that title can do for us, but keep in mind that everything we're sourcing is from a digital ping. We're reaching out and we're saying, different vendors to get back the information. And when all of a sudden we see a disconnect, we're concerned that maybe it's whatever flags it in the system is not the most recent transfer deed or whatever. That's when the borrower / you are conditioned to provide it. I will say, as a best practice, anytime you have the ability to pull a property profile ahead of sending that borrower the offer, you are well advised to do so that you can identify is there any red flags in there ahead of time. But there's no real workaround for that. We do have the ability to fix it. We can provide the deed. We can then send it to our vendor. They will update the records, and on down the road we go. But to your point, we do lose time doing that.
And let me add on to that as well, folks, right? A lot of the times right, we don't do title. We don't even do insta title on a lot of these. And a lot of the times what we're asking for when we're asking for things like deeds is we need the property legal description at the very end during notary review when we wrap things up to do notary. And what we can have can happen is our operations team will look online. We can't find the records available online. and that's why we're reaching out for a deed. So it's almost like a flip over where since everything is not manual, it's a situation where we're simply, hey, we just need a copy of the deed, couldn't find it online, please send it in. So it does depend on the situation, right? To Tim's point, if it's something we need to correct something, we can do it. Other times we need it just because, it wasn't available online. So we just need to pull and get a physical doc. Just know you have those conditions and you can fulfill them for the borrower as well.
Plot question. How many months does it go back for bank deposit analysis?
12 months max.
Can we opt out of auto pay after the first month's payment? And can we change the payment date? So showed how to change the payment date, but yeah, can they opt out of the auto pay after the first payment?
They can. Just know that discount is applicable on auto pay. And then you can change the payment date. I did see I think there was a question saying when can they change it? So the first payment date is 30 days after funding. They can't change that. They can't change the payment date until they make that payment. Then they can go ahead and change it. And it's on that online account, like I was showing you all. You just change it over, or they can call service and get that changed over.
All right, with IDs, we've had some issues with the new holograms in the driver's license.
Yeah. No denying that. We actually see that, I think, primarily in Florida and Arizona, I think are two big ones that we see that hologram issue. I will tell you, the team, we're actually pretty excited. We'll be talking about it on webinars once we roll this out, but we do have a new ID upload system or process coming, if you will, and it's going to greatly improve certainly the day in the life of the LO, for sure. Right now, it is what it is.
A lot of times when I have issues with an ID, they just call a support, or you can use the chat too, and they will review it for me, and usually they'll just crop it and it passes.
Very true. And that's another great use case of the chat. And actually, Alex and I were on a call earlier today, and he said the exact same thing, that a borrower can get an ID to pass, requesting to speak to a live agent and whatever the case is, and handling it right then and there.
All right. Does that button that allows them to pay off additional debt always appear? I may have misread the screen, but it looked like on the previous applications that the suggestion was made to pay off debt, but only particular debt, not the borrower's choice.
To be clear, that debt payoff screen for you, the loan originator, will only populate when you select an offer. It's not to say you have to proceed with the offer, but that button will only populate on your screen when you select the offer. Then you can choose the debts, and the borrower could then modify it, or you could not opt into the debt payoff, and the borrower could. It will show up on their screen as well. And not all debts get to be paid off. There's some real logic there, but it will now show eligible and ineligible, or available and unavailable to pay off. And there is no manually adjusting that. Whatever we show as available and unavailable will be the option for the borrower.
All right. And do we have the option to view their credit report?
We do not, except, keep me honest here, Alex. I think at the end, the hard credit, we can somewhat see it in the documents.
Yeah, there's a credit summary report off hard credit, but not a full credit report, that you may be used to on, one of the larger application processes is what I'll call it.
All right. How can we do refinances? Do we just start a new file? Anything that we need to take into consideration? And what are the fees?
Do simply start a new file. And if you're talking about refinance of an existing Figure loan, what's our seasoning time on that, Alex? 3 months?
It's three payments. So 3 months, yeah. And that's really it, folks, right? Is, you're going to go in there, you're going to start an inquiry, and you'll see in their offers with that direct debt payoff feature. You do have to select a term to see that, but when you select it, check and it'll show you, hey, junior lien payoff is an option. All right. One more question here, and we're going to have to wrap this up.
Oof. Okay, there's 33 left.
We're going to have to reach back out.
Yeah, I was going to just look for the best one, but there's 33. So I'm just going to say, I'll just take the top one. What does the appraisal process look like?
The appraisal process is pretty simple, simply because Figure right now is paying for all appraisals as a part of a promotion, really, we're doing. So for the borrower, what's going to happen? We saw that final offer screen. Well, they're going to be stopped before that, and it's going to say, hey, your appraisal is now being, requested. So again, that's through Clear Capital. The borrower is going to receive an email through Clear Capital where they're going to have a link to schedule. So the borrower is going to schedule for a date and time that works for them. That is a full in-person appraisal. Keep that in mind. And so this is something that, can take 3 days, usually about a week for the turnover, depending on when they schedule it. But quite simply, the borrower just schedules a date and a time. We'll do the appraisal. Once we get that appraisal report back, qualification is going to be based on it. So as simple as an appraisal can be.
Alex, we'll have all these questions, yes?
Absolutely, folks. So what we're going to do here, we are going to wrap this up. And so if you did not have your questions answered, we are going to go through these. I will be sending out the questions with the answers via email later on. We'll be reaching out. If you have not seen already, I posted a link to the YouTube channel. So I'll be posting a recording of this on our YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss a video. And with that, gentlemen, I think that is a webinar for today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.